Welcome to episode 471 of Salcedo Paranormal. And tonight I'm continuing my review of the complete books of Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me, on the podcast page. That is salcidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions, or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord, or if you listen on the podcast or YouTube feeds, or on the Troubled Minds radio network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. As always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, as well as Liam Martin, host of the Exile Minds podcast, for producing the show and putting it up on the station. If you'd like to support the show, there are some different ways to do that. You can always share the show with others, and or rate and review it on your podcast platform of choice. Also, I've written some paranormal fiction and nonfiction books you can check out on Amazon. If you would like extra content, you can find that on my Patreon page. There I will be releasing one extra True Paranormal Stories from the Web episode every month, sometimes more whenever possible. And that is available to all of the different membership tiers, membership levels there. Also, if you just like to make a one-time donation, you can do that through PayPal or Venmo, and all of those links are available on all the episode descriptions, as well as in the Discord and the podcast page. All those locations. So. And help is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses to doing this show, to making this show, and to making it better as I go on with it, and such as research materials and equipment, as things need to be replaced over time. I can tell you right now that that headphones do get worn out, mainly the wires, I think, of headphones, and even sometimes the headphones themselves. But either way, equipment does need to be replaced every so often, and also just other expenses such as for travel whenever possible. Again, I will be going to the Mid-Michigan Paracon this November 4th and 5th, and that is a Saturday and Sunday, and that is in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. There I'll be making recordings of myself and anyone else who wants to be is okay with being recorded, and talking about the paranormal in terms of thoughts and or experiences. And then I will be sharing those recordings once I get back home from that event, so on the show. So if you'd like to help with any of those things, then that would be appreciated. And so I think that takes care of everything. So this is just the latest part in a series of shows I've been doing on the complete books of Charles Fort. And I'm going to be finishing basically this is one massive volume of containing 4 different books that were released separately before. And I'll be finishing the first book in this set, which is the Book of the Damned, in this episode, because there's only 3 more chapters left that I have summarized that I need to review. And then I'll be starting the next book, which is New Lands. And these are all summaries that have been generated through the use of AI, and it's been amazing doing this, because I get to read these summaries and talk about them and sort of give my thoughts on them and connect them to everything else I've heard and read about the paranormal before and experiences, and just give my thoughts on the things that I find in this material. So just in case anyone hasn't been listening to these shows, if you go to the podcast page, you could probably just look for any of the episodes where that have the title, the same title basically, which is review the complete books of Charles Fort, and you'll be able to find all these episodes. So, and the difference in each title will just be the episode number, basically. So let me get to the document here, and so there's 4 books total in this set, and this is only the second one that, well, I'll be getting to the second one here in the show tonight, starting it. So this is how big this collection is. So this is the last few chapters here of the Book of the Damned. So this is chapter 24, and the summary says it presents many historical accounts of unusual objects and other events reportedly seen in the skies, including geometric shapes, elongated objects, hook-like projections, and fast-moving comet-like objects as well. But of course, Charles Fort argues that mainstream science has systematically disregarded and excluded these accounts rather than looking into them, basically, more. So, let's see here, skipping into through some of this usual sort of repeated stuff. So there's let me see here. So yeah, basically this section is just a general statement that there's all these different things that are seen in the sky that are basically dismissed by scientists, according to of course Charles Fort here. So a lot of these chapters, a lot of these summaries, they do repeat the same sort of. There's a theme, which is that Fort thinks that mainstream science basically disregards a lot of these odd things, which does seem to be the case. It's just that when you're doing these sort of getting these summaries generated and created, the same thing pops up over and over again. So that's why I try to skip through whenever I do these. But so next chapter here, chapter 25, presents multiple historical accounts of torpedo or cigar-shaped aerial objects and phenomena seen in the sky. Let's put the S on there, an accident. The objects are described as self-luminous, rapidly moving, and sometimes associated with explosions or falling debris. And a lot of the conventional explanations are auroral beams, like beams from auroras, I guess, and clouds. And but of course, Fort doesn't think these explain everything. Mentions that the frequency and consistency of the observations contradict the notion that these things are singular, isolated incidents. So, also the behavior and characteristics of the reported objects suggest to Fort that they are technological constructions rather than purely natural phenomena. Now, that's so basically what he's almost, you could almost say, he's hinting at the possibility of craft, in a way, by this, but basically in so many different words there. So, also, there's, let's see here. So, yeah, so basically there's an underlying theme of being open to extraordinary possibilities regarding aerial anomalies despite mainstream skepticism or exclusion. So, and again, these are torpedo-shaped and cigar-shaped objects in the sky, which we've heard that that's a whole type of or shape, common shape of UFOs seen in the sky. So, and now moving on to this last chapter of the Book of the Damned, which is the first book in the set here. This chapter gives a lot of or several accounts of unusual lights and luminous aerial objects seen in the skies over different locations around the world. The lights are described as maneuvering in organized formations, sometimes changing directions together in remarkable synchronicity. Now, keep in mind, this is these reports are all from the late 1800s, early 1900s. This is not World War II or beyond. This is before any of that. Which, again, this is why I really wanted to look at these books, because they talk about these events that happened basically before widespread use of any kind of human-made objects that could fly, as far as we know. So, or at least as far as I've heard anyway. So, really amazing concepts there. Let me see here. Getting back to the summary here. Some lights reportedly moved at very high velocities or evaded approach by observers on ships, on boats, basically. So, Fort highlights the organized, deliberate movements and the longevity of visibility as exceptional and unexplained by conventional explanations. So, let me see here. Of course, and this is just, again, now this is a summary, so it does not, it's not as interesting to read, but if you ever really want something that is a good read and also sort of keeps your attention just in the words and the choices of words used, I would recommend the works of Charles Fort, because he does have a lot of different ways to say basically the same things. And so, again, this last chapter here compiles accounts of anomalous aerial lights that display uncommon behaviors, formations, and longevity, challenging basically mainstream science. And that is the end of that book, the Book of the Damned. So, really amazing stuff there in terms of throughout that book. Just all kinds of strange things seen in the sky, whether moving through it or falling from it. So many things there. Just falling, all kinds of things. And then, of course, these lights and objects that are seen so apparently flying through the air. So, anyway, moving on to this next book. Again, this is called New Lands. And this book is divided into parts. And so this is the first, this is part 1, chapter 1. And in this chapter, Charles Fort explains he believes there are undiscovered lands in the sky, or celestial bodies near Earth that have not yet been found. He thinks new discoveries will be made, just as new lands were found westward in the late 15th century. So, now, at first you might think, and I thought, well, this is something that is from that time that by now has been disproven, I would think. But also, if you think of the way all these objects seem to appear in the sky and move through the sky. And then there's all these objects that fall from the sky, even including animals, frogs, fish, other things like that. I wonder if there's some kind of interdimensional thing going on there where somehow in some other level of reality there are other lands that somehow phase in and out of this level of reality. And that is what explains, or could explain, all these objects falling out of the sky and or flying from place to place and then also vanishing. I wonder if this is, and maybe we'll get to this. I don't know. I haven't really gone through this whole thing yet. So I'm kind of reviewing it as we go here. But I wonder if maybe that would explain why these ideas, he has these ideas, and that seems like they're not possible, and yet we know, just based on, I've listened to so many shows. Just real quick, this does tie in. I've listened to so many shows where they talk about the books of Charles Fort, and about all these objects falling from the sky, including frogs and fish, and then they'll get emails or comments on social media from people who will hear about these things for the first time on these shows. And they'll write in because they'll say that basically, oh my gosh, I had an experience with this. And so these are things that still apparently happen from time to time. Maybe they are extremely rare, and or again, like so much other paranormal, so much else in the paranormal, maybe it doesn't get reported because it's just considered to be too odd or too strange. But these things, again, there are reports of strange objects falling in the sky, and of course, I mean, that's not even counting all the reports of objects seen moving through the sky. So, and moving between the clouds, passing from one cloud to another cloud. So, just this is why I think it's still good to look at this book and see what it says, and sort of apply it to all the different reports of odd sightings, paranormal experiences that people have had over time. So that's why I'm still going to sort of review this book here, because I think maybe it's not as weird or as open and shut as you might think, just because of sort of ideas being disproven again by mainstream science. Maybe there's more to it than anyone knows. So anyway, didn't mean to go on a rant there, or not a rant, but a tangent there. But I guess I just wanted to explain why I do want to cover this book within this whole set of books. So anyway, so let's see here. Going back to the summary here, Charles Fort refers to sightings and astronomical phenomena as evidence for these undiscovered celestial lands. Things like mysterious airships, lights or signals on the moon. There's an odd one. Something that we've heard about before, I'm pretty sure, in different places. And also meteorites falling from fixed points. So Charles Fort feels mainstream astronomers and scientists suppress ideas about undiscovered lands and other phenomena that don't fit their worldview, and he wants to question the authority and consistency of astronomy. So Let me see here. I'm skimming through the rest of this. Okay, so yeah, moving on to chapter 2. So Charles Fort, let me see here, talks about methods of, see, now I'm looking at the summary here, and I don't know. This looks like basically a response from the AI to the section instead of a summary of it. So that's odd. I think we'll skip that one. That doesn't really doesn't make sense to me. So we'll just skip that chapter 2 section there. I just skimmed over it, and there's not a lot there I can really expand on. So going into chapter 3, mentions that comets were long considered a triumph of Newtonian physics and proof of the law of gravitation, since astronomers could supposedly predict their orbits mathematically. But Charles Fort is saying many predicted returns of comets failed to happen as expected. And Charles Fort gives examples of this that were that basically comets that were predicted to return at certain points didn't show up. So let me see here. Mentions that various explanations are given to basically explain this away, and including gravity from other planets throwing off orbits, new calculations of past effects, but Charles Fort is saying that these failed predictions keep piling up, apparently. So other comet-related errors are mentioned in the book, such as cases of, let's see here, astronomers basically miscalculating the comet's distance from Earth and whether it was approaching or receding. So again, that section seems to be more about Charles Fort sort of hinting at the possibility of more going on out there in space than just what what mainstream science suggests. So the next chapter here is chapter 4. This section talks about let me see here, the orbits of stars and companion stars, and it brings up, let me see here, let me see. So I'm looking at this, and it's a good sized section, and we really don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to end it there, and just say thank you all for sort of sticking with me as I'm working through this series here of these books. And the first book there, the Book of the Damned, was a lot easier for me to sort of comment on. This one is getting into a lot of science that I'm not as familiar with. So I apologize for that. But it's still been interesting so far. And there's in a lot of ways I do agree with some of the ideas that Charles Fort puts out in these books. Just that, even just the general idea that things are not always maybe as simple as they may seem, or the simplest explanation may not always be the actual reason or the actual explanation. So anyway, thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.